Oh, so close. So, hey guys, sorry about the horrible camera quality. This is my front camera on my bad phone. So, hopefully it doesn't bother you too much. I want to get it like steady though. Hmm. Well, it'll just be a shaky video. I wanted to make this video about a different substance than I usually talk about. So this ain't gonna be about psilocybin. It's gonna be about lysergic acid. So that's LSD. That was a weird intro, but that's the way it is. It's gonna be about my first time doing it. My first time doing it, I had done shrooms a few times, so I was kind of like, I know this game, I know this psychedelic world that I'm about to dip into. Um, but I didn't know that it would actually be very different. A lot of people try to compare shrooms to LSD because they're both hallucinogens, but they actually give you very different vibes, at least for me. Um, so I was with a group of friends, which I'm always nervous about with shrooms because I get very antisocial on shrooms, at least in the beginning when I'm coming up, because it's very like daunting and heavy and nervous and very introspective and emotional. So with LSD, I was kind of nervous. We had a trip sitter, which is always a good idea. Just have one just in case. But we were all doing low doses. We were all doing one tab, and it's hard to say how much is in a tab, just because the way LSD is made is from a liquid form, and they drop it little droplets onto blotter paper, which is paper you put under your tongue. And you generally put it under your tongue. I know in the movies you put it on top, but it goes closer. It goes faster into your bloodstream if you put it under. Apparently, I'm not an expert, but that's what I've read. So yeah, we did that, and the come up was very funny. It was like funny, goofy, silly. I was laughing. I remember staring at my friend and seeing like ribbons of colors around her and just like a weird like breathing image of her face, like just tripping. Also, everything went very HD. Like I felt like I could see her pores. I could see like tiny little like wrinkles here. Like my eyes went like super HD. And that was a theme for the whole day because I started seeing like garbage on the side of the road and it was making me mad about humans. But I'll get into that in a sec. So basically, I was sitting, we were all in the bathroom and I was on the toilet, not like on the toilet, but I was sitting on the lid of the toilet watching everybody. And I remember I felt like I was like this big and everybody was like super tall. It was like a fun house. Like things were just waving, like the floor was like switching dimensions, like going lower and then higher, like waving like that. And I was just laughing my ass off. It was like the funniest thing to me, which is so different from shrooms because the shroom come up is so scary and like daunting and like I'm just like, holy shit, my life is about to change. Whereas LC is kind of just like, everything's so funny. It feels like an electrical outlet has been plugged into you and you're just on go. So in that way, it feels more like a drug. It feels more synthetic, I guess, for me. Um, but yeah, it was awesome. And eventually we went outside just to like get into nature a little bit. We went on my friend's porch and I started feeling overwhelmed, like sensory overload. I wasn't scared per se. It's not like a bad like trip. I was just very like, okay, I need to like take a few steps back because I'm tripping. And so I put a blanket over my head and I was staring at my jeans. And my friend next to me was playing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And the little patterns in my jeans, like the sewing, was like moving and dancing along to the song. It was very odd. Um, and I remember my mood was just like so elated, so happy, so like connected to everybody. It felt like I was in kindergarten and that everybody that was tripping was in kindergarten, that our trip sitter was our teacher, and that we were all on a field trip. That's exactly like how to put the trip perfectly. We were all on a field trip from life for like a little bit. We could all be kids again. That's kind of what LC always feels like to me now. Um, but eventually, my friend was who was sober was tapping her leg, and I realized that she was tapping her leg to the beat of the song, and the beat of the song was going to the same beat of a little windmill that was swirling nearby, and that windmill was going to the beat of the leaves blowing in the wind, and those leaves were going to the beat of my heartbeat, and my heartbeat was going to the beat of my breathing, blah blah blah, etc., to like literally everything I could hear. And I came out of the blanket and I turned to my friend and I was like, did you realize that you are tapping to the exact beat of the universe? Like the song of the universe, you are tapping into it and you're not even on drugs. That must mean it's all naturally within us. And she's just like, all right, thanks. So that was profound to me. I was like the happiest I was so elated feeling that. I felt so connected to everything. My friends came outside then, and we were all coloring, and they were coloring pictures of me, two of my friends, and they were kind of bickering over which picture was better. And I remember it wasn't like a heavy argument though. It still felt like two little kids that were four. Like, you know, when they bicker over little things and you just watch them and you're like, oh, it's so cute. That's exactly how I felt. Everything was just cute and nice and happy. And we ended up going to Subway restaurant, which was crazy for me because like I wouldn't even go to Subway restaurant on weed. If I smoked weed and I was high, I'd be like, fuck no, I'm not going anywhere in public. If I was on shrooms, less of a chance. But LSD, I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. It was insane. I felt like I wanted people to know I was high, which is like the opposite of any other drug I'm on. I'm always like, if I smoke weed, I'm like, I don't want anybody to know I'm high ever. Same thing with mushrooms. But LSD, I was like proud of it. I felt like a rebel. I felt like crazy and wild, which is rare for me. I'm not much of a crazy wild rebel feeler. But yeah, it was awesome. And we went to a Subway. They all bought subs. I bought everybody a sub because I was feeling super happy and I felt like they were my kids and we're all like little kids and I was feeling generous. I didn't even buy a sub because I couldn't feel like eating. But yeah, we walked back, and on the walk back, I remember my eyes were so attuned with everything that I was noticing all these little cigarettes and just dirt on the street and like how disgusting like asphalt was and pavement, and there was no trees, like barely any trees, and I just started hating the fact that humanity had kind of fucked up Earth, like literally fucked up Earth, and I felt disconnected from nature. I felt like I was part of that system, which I am, part of that system that's just so disconnected from nature and that has abused it and used it. And it made me feel upset for a bit. And on this walk, I'm hallucinating like a motherfucker. I'm seeing things wave. Nothing comes out of like nothing jumps out at you. Like there's no like Mickey Mouse like running around. At least not on one tab dose for me. But you do see like weird, like people just look crazily weird, HD and like just bigger than they are. Their dimensions are all off. They're waving, their patterns are like crazy. But with LSD, you have this weird confidence where you're just like accepting everything. It's like everything's just like, okay, this is how I am now. This is how reality is now. Fuck it. I'm gonna work with it. And I felt that multiple times I've done LSD after that. And yeah, so we went back home. I really wanted to go to a park, but we never ended up going. I just felt like such a little kid. Oh, huge thing. So the way we were talking and the way that your mind works on LSD is almost on fast forward. It is kind of like a stimulant in terms of how you start thinking. You literally become a genius for about 8 hours. I remember our conversations were insane. I don't even know what we were talking about, but we were convinced we came down to like the purpose of life. We thought that life was all on like a computer board. I can't even remember what the hell we were talking about. Life was on like a computer board and we were all just blinking lights. And when you die, your light just goes out and you go feed back into the system and you just loop it. It's just crazy. And the way you connect your thoughts, it's so fast when you're with other people on LSD because you just feel like you're all connected and all on the same wavelength. And you lose kind of your personality. Everybody becomes kind of like similar in a weird way. I think that's like a group trip thing. Like even on shrooms, you all become kind of like a group think. But I remember our trip sitter was like, you guys were talking so fucking fast. I couldn't understand a word any of you were saying, but it sounded like you all knew what you were talking about. But to her, it was like we're just mumbling nonsense. And I remember that it was to the point that I would read body language so well and just read thought patterns so well that in my tripping mind, I thought that I was reading people's minds. Like I literally saw, like before they said something, I saw almost, but like I saw in my mind, it wasn't exact writing, but I saw in my mind what they were about to say and I would finish their sentences. And they would do the same for me. And it was crazy. I literally thought that I was reading minds. I was like, holy shit, I'm psychic. But yeah, that was the trip. It's very like creative compared, like it's very just like extroverted, fun. It would definitely be so fun for a festival compared to mushrooms, at least for me. It's more of like an extroverted, you can control the trip. It's very happy and light. It's not so introspective, at least for me, and maybe in the setting that I was in, was always with people. But it is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's just different for shrooms than shrooms for me. Shrooms is more of like, if I ever wanted to take a step and like change my life, introspectively, like emotionally, I would do shrooms. If I ever wanted to like face any like suppressed problems, shrooms. If I wanted to change my life in inspiration terms of creativity, or in social interactions, I would do LSD. If I wanted to go to a festival, LSD. Any kind of social event, LSD. Meditative retreat, shrooms. You kind of get the difference. I've seen a few forums say that shrooms is kind of like you're in the back seat of the trip, and the shrooms are just driving you and letting you doing whatever they want. Whereas LSD is kind of like you're in the front seat and you're the driver and you have your hand on the wheel and you can steer it in any direction that you so choose. So yeah, if you're nervous for your first time, take a low dose. 1 tab is usually pretty small, but be careful where you get it from. If you want to be really careful, do 3/4, do a half, just test it out. Like, don't rush yourself. There's so many times you can do it. You don't have to rush yourself, but don't be nervous. It's honestly such a fun time. And if you get nervous on like weed or mushrooms like I do, LSD could be something very different for you, because it is for me. I get way more paranoid on weed than I do on LSD. So yeah, have a good time, be safe, always have a trip sitter, and yeah, happy tripping.